speaking. So, to start off this speech, I want to start with a story about how I was able to serve someone else who I knew. In our jump rope team, I'm on a competitive jump rope team. There's a lot of kids. We have about 20 members now, and a lot of us like to exchange letters back and forth. So one day I got a letter from one of the members in our team, and it was so nice because I'd been something happened at that practice that I didn't really appreciate, and she wrote this really encouraging note that really blessed me. And ever since then, we've been having a letter train back and forth, which has been a really fun opportunity for me to serve her in a specific way, because she's not quite old enough to do speech and debate, and she was asking me about apologetic tips. So because I've learned so much, I was able to serve her in that way by giving her some tips and things for doing apologetics. Today the prompt I've been given is restaurant. And what I want you to come away with today is to be a servant. So that's really what I want you to come away with today. Be a servant. Now to explore this idea, I'm going to have 3 examples. The first example I already gave was the example where I was writing a letter to my friend on the team. But then I have a second example where I was able to actually serve someone else on the team by just helping them learn new skills. And in my third example, I want to show how you can be a servant just at home. So my first example I already explained about the letter, but it's really a unique example that I didn't even have to go, search for it or do it specifically. It just came, and I had the opportunity to write that letter and be encouraging and share information that I did have with someone else. So now to my second example, that of jump rope. So as I mentioned before, I'm on a competitive jump rope team, and there's a lot of students, there's a lot of jumpers who are in the lower level of difficulty range, but there's a couple of us big boys who are really good. Now the temptation can be for us big boys to just kind of hang out in our big boy group and discuss big boy things that are really cool that no one else can do. But sometimes the better thing to do would be for us to break down and help the younger jumpers discover new things. I mean, what a bigger impact would it be for us to learn another way cool thing when we could have at that same time helped someone else add value or had added value to their life and to their skills. So that's another example of how you can be a servant to someone else, or how I was able to serve another member on the team. So now to my third example, which is that at home. Now you don't have to have tons of money, you don't have to have lots of information or knowledge. You can be a servant just in your daily lives. At home, I could unload the dishwasher for my brother, even though I hate unloading the dishwasher. And he hates it too. But if I were to serve him in that way, think of how our relationship could be built. That'd be such an edifying experience. Or what if I were simply to hold the baby for a while so my mom could have a relaxing time without, taking care of the baby the whole time? The examples go on and on. But to be a servant, we must remember the ultimate servant, the ultimate sacrifice of Jesus Christ. And this is part of my final example. He was such a servant that this was the Son of God incarnate. He was in a human body. He was washed his disciples' feet. Now back then, they didn't have closed-toed shoes. They wore sandals. Their feet got dirty. And so the custom was when you would go into someone's house, the servant would wash your feet before you would go in and enjoy dinner. But Jesus, the Son of God, stooped and washed his disciples' feet in order to teach them an important lesson, how to be a servant. So today, to bring us all together, I'm going to review what we've gone over today. In my first example, I talked about the letter to my friend and how I was able to serve her in that way. In my second point, I talked about the real application on the team, where we can help those younger jumpers on the team by teaching them skills and serving them in that way. In my third example, we looked at both how you can serve in the home and how Jesus was the ultimate servant. And I hope what I've shown you today is to be a servant. Go out, be a servant. Don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone and to serve someone else. Thank you.
4 minutes and 40 time.
so I'm just gonna put these back.
Just, yeah, don't put the one back that you're gonna use.
Yeah, I'm gonna use this one.
Perfect, you get to keep it.
All right then. So if the judges are ready and the timer.
You're Luke.
Yes, I am.
Okay,
I'm
just
sorry.
wanted to make sure.
Yeah, my name tag, I got it yesterday.
That's fine. I understand.
All right, so the judges timer ready? All right, then let's begin. I once had this friend that I've been trying to get to go to church for a really long time, and eventually it just happened, and we eventually went there. Now, when we got there, I was really excited for him to go, but one thing happened. It was during middle school, and most of the kids there weren't acting like Christians. They were cursing, saying inappropriate jokes. They were not really reflecting the image of God like I wanted to my friend. Now, this shied him away from the church because he thought, why would I want to become like them when they have so much, they act just like me? Why would I want to do that? You know, this is a problem for a lot of people. We make it more about ourselves than others. And that's my topic that I'm going to speak about today, and it is that of church. I'll be discussing this in 3 points. Firstly, discussing what the problem is. Secondly, analyzing it. And lastly, the impact. So basically, to simplify that, problem, analyze, and impact. Now, the main point I'll be trying to prove in said speech is that we need to reflect the image of God, not the image of the world. Now, moving into my first point. Now, what the problem is many times is people want to act how the cool people are acting, and they try to achieve that through cursing, through making bad jokes, and making it more about them than about God. Now, this is the exact opposite of what we want to do. We want to reflect the image of God in church. We don't want to simply fit in like others. We are called by God to be the salt and the light of the world. Now, being the salt and the light doesn't seem like cursing. It doesn't seem like making inappropriate jokes. Being the image of God is reflecting what he did. Now, Jesus, when he was on earth, he did many things that no one would ever do. It doesn't matter what you offered them. But he, after that whole day, when he had to carry his own cross, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Think about that. Forgive them. After all they had done to him, forgive them. Any person ever, after the day they had been through, they would think anything but forgive them. You know, us as Christians, even we fall. We have sin, and we fall into the same mistakes. We fall into those same problems, those same issues. And we really should be reflecting the image of God. Now, this leads me to my second point of analyzing influence. Now, analyzing church. Now, I believe that church is a good thing. And when we think of the church, me being a Christian, I think of worshiping God, worshiping him, and trying to become like him. Now, sadly, we've painted a bad picture. And analyzing this problem further, it's because people often shy away from it because what happens? They see that they're not acting any different than how their friends act or how these cool people act, as they say. They're acting just as the world. So we need to act not as the world, but act as God would want us to act. I remember they used to do this whole thing about what would Jesus do, and I remember thinking how silly that was, but in real life, think about that. Because this is a true point. What would Jesus do? Would he be making bad jokes? Would he be being inappropriate? Or would he be sharing the gospel? Would he be helping others? And that's really what we don't seem to look at these days. But there is still hope, and that leads me to my third and final point of the impact. Now, some people neglect that. Some people neglect that people in the church are bad, and that's really not good. Now, there is main reasons how you could change. Now, first of all, you could decide to read the Bible more, decide to be more like God. Secondly, they took a list and they said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, think about that. If you're the average, are these people helping you, or are they tearing you down? Are they helping you in your life choices? Because If those 5 friends are acting foolish, they're acting not like Christians, then they're simply not right. Because with this and the power of the Holy Spirit, you can make a real life difference. And that's what I challenge you today. Because when I brought that friend, I wasn't expecting that. But, you know, we have to improve the church. We have to make it a better place. Because the church is a good place to be in. Unfortunately, we don't reflect the image of God. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for judging. Thank you for judging.
Bye. What do you think of it when it's hot and it's sweaty and you're all sweaty? Where do you think to go first? Most people will think to go to a beach. Today I drew the word beach. Today I'll be talking about how God made the beach for animals, for people, and how God is so caring that He made a place for people to hang out when it's really hot. So first of all, God made the beach. He made it for animals to relax and they can find food there too. The beach is very important because there's water there for animals and there's fish they can get and they can live there, and there's lots of animals that live on the beach. The beach is very important to the animals. God also made this, and he shows through this that He's taking care of His creatures by providing them a place to live and also water nearby and also lots of food on the sand on the beach. God also made the beach for people to enjoy. When it's hot and sweaty, people want to go and cool off. And so going to water is the closest option because the water is where it's cooler. So God also made the beach for people to relax and to have fun time in the summer. You can play, you can swim, and you can build sandcastles, and it's really fun. I remember we used to go up to the beach when we were on vacation, and it's really fun to relax, and it's nice and hot, and you can go into the water to cool off if it's too hot. So the beach is a really fun place to go if you're hot or it's summer and you want to relax somewhere that's nice. Lastly, I'll be talking about how God made the beach to supply it for animals and for people. God made the beach so that we could have a place to relax and a great habitat for the animals. The birds have places for them to nest, and the crabs and the fish, they all can live in the water. Today we have talked about how God made the beach for animals to live on, how He made the beach for people to have fun and relax on, and also how God made the beach so that God made the beach for both animals and humans to both relax. Also, He made the beach because it's a nice place and it's the scenery and everything is really nice at the beach. Thank you.
Am I just ready? Good time? Yes. And I know it's only been 2 days at this tournament. I'm starting to get tired, and I'm leaning towards getting home. Though there's 2 more days, which leads me to my word I got today, home. I have lots of fun at home. I have my sister and my 2 brothers who are always bossing me around, and my mom and dad. And it's fun there, but there's still problems. But later, when I die, I'm going to go to my home in heaven, where I will meet God, and I will have so much more fun there than I did here. Thank you.
Time.
So if all of my judges are ready, and my timer, then let's begin. You come back from your day at work or your day at school, and you come home, you put your stuff on a chair, and you go and sit on your couch and turn the TV on. You sit there and watch the TV as your sibling yells for you. Instead of getting up and going, you just say, I'm in the living room. Today, we're going to be talking about living room. I have gotten the prompt, living room. Now, today I'm going to be talking about what is the living room for my first point. And for my second point, I'm going to be talking about things that you would find and do in the living room. For my first point, what is the living room? Now, from the name of it, you might think of it as a bedroom, a place where someone would live, someone would eat, sleep, and do hobbies in their spare time. But today, it has a completely different meaning and a completely different use. Most of the time, we sit on the couch and relax. So why isn't it called a lounge room or a relaxing room? But it's called a living room. And I think the reason for this is because most of the time when we get back from a hard day at work or at school, or we get back from an activity, we go there, we get our glass of water or milk or orange juice, and we sit on the couch there and sit there for hours and hours and hours at a time watching television or maybe playing games or something like that. And I think the reason we call it a living room is because so many people spend so much time in there that they practically live in their living room and not in their bedroom where most people would think that you would sleep and eat and drink. So now I'm going to be talking about some things that you might find in a living room. Of course, you would most likely find a couch, maybe some chairs, maybe a love seat, maybe a few small coffee tables that you can put drinks on. Most likely, you would find a television, but you wouldn't find a bed. Even though it's called a living room, you would not find a bed. And I think that that is very confusing to me for the name living room to not be living in that room, but to be living at different parts of the house at the same time. And as I was talking about things that we will find in the living room, I think that in the early days, a living room would be called a living room because that was the only room in the house, and that was the house you would be living in. And things you would find in older times in a living room would be things like a bed, a mattress, places to sit, places to eat, places to drink, places to entertain yourself, a fire maybe, and a chimney as a fireplace. But now, we still call it a living room, even though we don't really live in the living room. So, today, I have talked about living room, and I talked about why I think it's called a living room through my first point, talking about what the definition of living room means, and my second point, talking about what I think in the old times you would have found in a living room, and in nowadays what we would have found in a living room. Thank you. Thank you for judging.
Thank you.
Thank you for judging. Thank you for your time. Thank you. And thank you for time. And what was your time?
4:04.
Thank you. 4:04?
4:04.
And you would like me?
Time.
Okay. And I have 5 minutes, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Do you mind if I fold this in half so we can
You
fit
can
in
keep
here?
it. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, that's cool. Because I don't want to be like holding a huge big string of paper while I'm walking around, you know? Okay. All the judges ready? Okay, then let's begin. The topic that I've been given to talk about today is the word of sidewalk. Now, a sidewalk is typically something that is paved out for you and that you're going to walk down. It's more reasonable to walk down than if you're on the side of a cliff. You're not going to walk on the side of the cliff. That's pretty much impossible. You're going to walk on the paved path that is there. So the sidewalk is the idea of a path, a paved path prepared for you that you're going to walk on. Now a common topic that came to mind when I was preparing for this about a paved path that's already prepared is the topic of planning of basically when you're just going about your daily duties, how are you going to look forward and plan out what you're going to do? Are you going to go off the sidewalk or go off the path, or are you going to stay on the path? So I have 2 points of how one can walk the path of planning. I have 3 points under this. The first is that of just evaluating the current situation, about how the first point will be evaluating the current situation. The second can be preparing yourself for what's ahead. I guess you might say looking ahead to see what might come and then preparing for that. And then the third will be to just start walking on the sidewalk. And so let's go to the first point of preparing for what's ahead. No, not preparing for what's ahead. Sorry about that. Evaluating the current situation. Now, in my part, planning's been really difficult, and something that I've neglected to do is just seeing the current situation and where you're at. I just usually will say, okay, I have to get this done by this time, and I'll just start working on it. I don't actually plan out the current situation of where I am and how much I need to actually get done by a certain time. And that has led to many planning failures. So it's very important that when you're walking on the sidewalk, you make sure you know where you're at, instead of maybe you're walking on a boardwalk at a beach and all of a sudden you take a step off the edge because you weren't paying attention to where you are. So that's important. And that leads me to the second point of preparing yourself for what's ahead. This kind of goes hand in hand with the first point, because once you evaluate your current situation, that can play into what's going to happen in the future. If you evaluate the current situation and know your foot is actually placed over the edge, by preparing yourself, you can just move your foot onto the path again. In the terms of planning, this can move to you have a lot to do by this certain time, and by planning a certain amount each day, maybe you can eventually get it done. And this leads me to the third point of actually taking the path. Thing about planning that I've read about in books and seen in examples while researching, or just even myself, is that sometimes people will plan things and they'll say, okay, I'll do this, but then they don't really do anything. Like, for example, I'll say, in terms of debate, I'll say, okay, I need to have my case written by this day. I'm going to get all my applications done. I'm going to have the whole case written, and then I'll debate at the end of the day to practice. And I end up maybe writing an introduction, and that's pretty much it. I'll end up just procrastinating. So in terms of planning, the best step to take is just to go right into it, to get started, not to just beat around the bush and just go like, okay, I need to do this. Well, how should I do this? But maybe I should do this instead. That's not going to get anything done. It's actually taking this step, and taking the step. In this speech, I've tried to show how planning links to a sidewalk, and where in a sidewalk you have to know where you're going and you need to prepare yourself for what's ahead and then actually start walking. You can't just look at a sidewalk and say, I'm going to walk, and then not really walk anywhere. But of how in order to successfully walk on a sidewalk and also to successfully plan, you'll need to evaluate the current situation, prepare yourself for what's going to come eventually after you have evaluated the situation, and then you just go and take the step into what's ahead. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Time.
Is everyone ready?
Mm-hmm.
Today's word I got today was forest, and I really didn't get to think of one that I was thinking, but I got up to one was some forests are dense. We need, it's hard to get through because there's a whole bunch of vines and stuff through the path that we're trying to get through. But there's one that helps you get through all these dense vines, these trees, and it's God. God helps you get through all this stuff. Easy path. He gives you the weapons to get through all this stuff. So why should you keep on going through life with just a whole bunch of things blocking your path, when you could just have someone helping you through this, so it's easier for you. So what I'm saying is is having an easier life, but just there's it's harder to get through without God when you have all this stuff in your way, but when you have God, it's a way easier to get through life. So I just put these.
Yes. And you can keep that one. Thank you so much.
1 minute and 32 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time.
Do you want me to do this?
No, we get to keep it back. You can keep it.
Perfect. All right, well, if the judges are ready, let's get started. Now, I personally am an extrovert, and there's nothing I like more than going over to a friend's house or somewhere with a friend and hanging out with them. In fact, sometimes my sister or my parents get mad at me because I find it hard just to sit into Saturday at home just relaxing. I feel like it's kind of a waste. Now, the slip I drew today was that of a friend's house, and to me a friend's house is a lot more than just a building where my friend stays. It's also kind of a home away from home or an escape. It's obviously somewhere I can hang out with a friend. So now, throughout today's speech, we're going to be going over those 3 points and exactly why I think those are important and why those mean to me, so much to me as an extrovert. So again, when talking about how it's just a place where you can go to hang out with your friends, how it's kind of a home away from home, and also how it can sometimes be more of an escape, someplace that you can trust and go to. So now, first of all, it's a place to hang out with friends. Obviously, like I said, I'm an extrovert and I absolutely love hanging out with my friends, so I jump at the opportunity to go over to a friend's house. It's just one of my favorite things to do. In fact, for this tournament, actually, my parents couldn't make it to the tournament. My sister had some college stuff to do, so I hitched a ride with some friends and we flew down here, and now we're all staying in the hotel room. So it's been a pretty fun week. We're also going to go to Disneyland after this, so definitely awesome to hang out with friends. Also, it's a home away from home, a friend's house. It's someplace you can trust to go to. You know that if you go there, you're going to be fed. You can trust the people that are there. So a lot of times, if your parents are going out somewhere, or if you basically just can't be at your own house, then you know that you can actually trust and go to your friend's house. Instead, you know that you can stay there and you'll be safe there. But then also, sometimes it's an escape. So if you're having a bad day or something, you know that you can also, in the same way, go to your friend's house. You know that your friend will be there for you, and that you can, hang out with them, tell them, what's wrong or why you need that sort of an escape. So I think that friends' houses in general are a very important part too. Extroverts like me, you're also an introvert, to have that place that you can go, that you feel comfortable in, that you can trust everyone in it. So I do think it's very important to have a lot of friends, and obviously those friends' houses that you can go to and that you feel safe and that you can trust being there. So it's for all those reasons that I love going over to my friends' houses, and that I think this is definitely a very good topic for me to draw today. Thank you. Thank you so much for judging. Thank you so much for judging. Thank you so much for judging. And then, do I give you this, or
No, you keep it.
Okay.
Yep.